There is something quietly happening inside the human body as we age, and most people never notice it until the consequences become impossible to ignore. It is not a sudden change, and it is not something that announces itself loudly. Instead, it is a slow reduction in one of the body's most important survival systems, the automatic ability to correct balance when it starts to fail. This system is not a single muscle or a single joint. It is a coordinated reflex involving the feet, ankles, legs, and nervous system working together in milliseconds to keep a person upright without conscious effort. When this system is functioning well, you can stumble slightly, shift your weight unexpectedly, or step on an uneven surface and still recover without even thinking about it. But when this system weakens, even small disturbances in movement can become serious risks. To understand why this happens, it is important to first understand what balance actually is. Most people assume balance is simply the ability to stand still without falling. In reality, balance is a dynamic process. It is not about stillness. It is about constant correction. Even when you think you are standing completely still, your body is making hundreds of tiny adjustments every second. The muscles in your feet are activating, your ankles are shifting pressure, your hips are making micro corrections, and your brain is continuously interpreting sensory information from the ground, your vision, and your inner ear. All of this happens automatically, without conscious thought, and this is what keeps you stable in everyday life. However, as the body ages, several subtle changes begin to interfere with this system. One of the most important changes occurs in the feet. The feet are not just passive structures that support body weight. They are highly sensitive sensory organs filled with nerve endings that constantly communicate with the brain. These nerves inform the brain about pressure, movement, and surface texture. This feedback allows the body to react instantly when balance is disrupted. But over time, especially when a person wears thick cushioned footwear, spends long hours sitting, or avoids challenging movements, the sensitivity of these nerves begins to decline. The communication between the feet and the brain becomes less precise, and the reaction speed slows down. At the same time, the muscles in the feet and lower legs also begin to weaken. These small muscles are responsible for gripping the ground, stabilizing the arch of the foot, and making rapid adjustments when the body shifts off center. When these muscles lose strength, the body loses one of its fastest defense mechanisms against falling. What makes this particularly concerning is that the decline is often so gradual that it goes unnoticed. A person does not feel their foot muscles weakening in the same way they might feel general fatigue or pain. Instead, they begin to notice small changes in confidence, slight hesitations when walking on uneven ground, or a growing reliance on support such as walls, railings, or furniture. One of the most misunderstood aspects of balance is the role of reflexes. A reflex is an automatic response that happens without conscious thought. In the context of balance, reflexes are what prevent a minor stumble from becoming a full fall. For example, if your body tilts forward unexpectedly, the muscles in your feet and legs are supposed to activate instantly to pull you back into alignment. This happens in fractions of a second, faster than conscious awareness. But when these reflexes slow down, even slightly, the body may not respond in time. That delay, even if it is less than a second, can determine whether a person regains balance or falls to the ground. This is why falls rarely happen in completely static situations. They happen during movement. Walking, turning, reaching, stepping over objects, or changing direction are the moments when balance is most vulnerable. In these moments, the body is not just holding a position. It is constantly adjusting to shifting weight and changing surfaces. If the reflex system is slow or weak, it cannot keep up with these rapid changes. This is where most falls begin, not with a dramatic loss of control, but with a small miscalculation that the body fails to correct in time. Another important factor is that the brain becomes more cautious with age. As people experience minor stumbles or near falls, even if they do not result in injury, the brain begins to adapt by reducing movement speed and increasing hesitation. While this may seem like a protective mechanism, it often leads to reduced mobility overall. A person may begin to walk more carefully, avoid certain activities, or limit movement in unfamiliar environments. Over time, this reduction in movement contributes further to muscle weakening and slower reflexes, creating a cycle that gradually increases fall risk rather than reducing it. The encouraging part of this entire process is that none of these systems are permanently lost. The nervous system remains capable of adaptation throughout life. The muscles in the feet and legs can regain strength with consistent use. The reflex pathways can become faster again when they are regularly challenged. The body does not forget how to balance. It simply becomes less practiced at it when the demands placed on it decrease. This means that targeted, intentional movement can have a significant impact even in older age. Before introducing any exercises, it is essential to establish a clear understanding of how training balance actually works. Effective balance training does not focus on holding static positions for long periods of time. Instead, it focuses on controlled instability. In other words, the goal is to safely challenge the body's ability to recover from small shifts in balance. This teaches the nervous system to respond more quickly and efficiently. The exercises that follow are designed specifically around this principle. Each one targets a different aspect of balance, including foot reflexes, weight shifting, walking stability, directional control, and functional strength. However, safety must always come first. Any balance training should be performed in a controlled environment with stable support nearby. A wall, chair, or countertop should always be within reach, not because failure is expected, but because confidence increases when the body knows support is available if needed. Movement should always be slow, deliberate, and within a comfortable range. There is no benefit in pushing beyond stability into risk. The purpose is to gradually rebuild control, not to test limits. With this foundation in mind, the first exercise focuses on reactivating the natural reflex of the feet. This reflex is one of the most important protective systems in the body, and it begins with how pressure is distributed through the toes in the front of the foot. When functioning properly, the toes are able to engage the ground instinctively during forward movement, helping to stabilize the entire body. However, in many people, this reflex becomes underactive over time due to lack of stimulation. To begin addressing this, the body must be gently reintroduced to forward balance control in a way that is both safe and measurable. The goal is not to force movement, but to allow the natural response to reappear. When practiced consistently, this type of training helps restore communication between the feet and the nervous system. Over time, the body becomes more responsive to subtle shifts in weight, and stability begins to improve in everyday movements such as walking, standing, and turning. At this stage, it is important to understand that improvement will not feel dramatic at first. The early changes are subtle: a slightly quicker correction when shifting weight, a small increase in confidence when stepping forward, a reduced need to hold on to support in familiar environments. These small changes are the foundation of long-term stability improvement. They may seem minor in isolation, but together they represent a significant restoration of the body's natural protective system. Now that the underlying mechanism of balance has been clearly established, the next step is to begin practical activation of these systems through structured movement. The following exercise is designed to initiate that process safely and effectively, focusing on restoring forward balance reflexes and re-engaging the feet in their natural stabilizing role. Now that you understand how balance actually works beneath the surface, the next step is to begin rebuilding it through controlled, intentional movement. The focus here is not intensity, it is precision. Each exercise is designed to retrain a specific part of the balance system so that your body becomes faster, more responsive, and more stable in everyday situations. The key principle throughout this stage is simple. Small, safe challenges repeated consistently are what restore reflex speed and coordination. The first movement begins with what can be described as a forward balance reactivation drill. This exercise is designed to restore the natural ability of the body to recognize when it is shifting too far forward and to activate the corrective response through the feet and ankles. To begin, stand in a safe space where you have a wall or sturdy chair within easy reach. Your feet should be placed comfortably apart, and your posture should remain upright but relaxed. The goal is not stiffness, but awareness. From this position, you slowly begin to lean your body forward in a straight line, keeping your body aligned like a single unit from head to feet. The movement originates at the ankles, not the waist. This distinction is important because bending at the waist changes the mechanics entirely and removes the balance challenge. As you lean forward, your body will naturally begin to feel a shift in pressure moving toward the front of your feet. This is where the toes begin to engage. If the system is functioning well, you will feel the toes lightly pressing into the ground as a stabilizing response. The objective is not to fall forward or to push beyond control. The objective is to reach the point where your body recognizes instability and automatically initiates correction. That moment of correction is the entire purpose of the exercise. Once you feel that response, you gently return to the starting position. This cycle is repeated slowly and with full attention. Over time, the nervous system becomes more efficient at detecting imbalance earlier, and the corrective response becomes faster and more automatic. What makes this exercise effective is its direct connection to real-life situations. Most forward falls do not happen because a person is completely unaware of movement. They happen because the body detects imbalance but reacts too slowly. By repeatedly training this forward shift in a controlled environment, the nervous system becomes more sensitive to early signs of instability. This means that in daily life, the body is more likely to correct itself before a fall fully develops. The next stage of training focuses on side-to-side stability. While forward balance is important, many real-world falls occur during lateral movement. This includes turning quickly, reaching for objects, stepping sideways, or shifting weight unexpectedly. To train this, a support surface such as a chair is used for light stability assistance. Begin by standing upright with your hands lightly resting on the chair. Slowly shift your weight onto one leg while allowing the opposite foot to lift slightly off the ground. This is not a jump or a lift driven by force. It is a controlled transfer of body weight. The supporting leg becomes active while the lifted leg remains relaxed. Hold this position briefly, focusing on stability rather than duration. Then slowly return to center and repeat on the opposite side. What is being trained here is not just leg strength, but coordination between the hips, ankles, and core muscles. These systems must work together in real time to maintain balance during movement. As control improves, the reliance on hand support naturally decreases. First, both hands may be needed, then one hand. Eventually, only light fingertip support is required. In advanced stages, the exercise can be performed without any hand support at all, but only when stability is fully established. A key point to understand is that balance is not a static ability. It is a dynamic skill that improves through repetition of controlled instability. Each time you shift your weight and recover, you are reinforcing neural pathways responsible for stability. These pathways become stronger and faster with repetition, which directly translates into improved confidence during walking and standing tasks. The next exercise introduces controlled walking stability. Walking is one of the most common real-world situations where falls occur, yet it is rarely trained in a structured way. To address this, a heel-to-toe walking pattern is introduced. This pattern reduces the base of support and requires the body to actively maintain alignment with each step. Begin by selecting a straight path where you can walk safely, ideally along a wall for optional support. Place one foot directly in front of the other so that the heel of the front foot gently touches or comes close to the toes of the back foot. As you step forward, each movement should be slow and deliberate. The goal is not speed or distance, but control. Your gaze should remain forward rather than downward, encouraging the balance system to rely less on visual confirmation of foot placement and more on internal stability mechanisms. As you continue this movement, you will likely notice small adjustments happening in your ankles and hips. These adjustments are the body's natural corrective responses. The more consistently this exercise is practiced, the more efficient these responses become. Over time, walking in everyday life begins to feel more stable, especially in situations involving narrow spaces, uneven surfaces, or distractions. Following this, the next exercise focuses on lifting and stepping control, which is essential for avoiding obstacles in daily life. Many falls occur when the foot does not lift high enough to clear an object, such as a rug, step, or uneven surface. To train this ability, standing controlled marches are used. Stand behind a chair with light support if needed. Slowly lift one knee upward while maintaining an upright posture. The movement should be smooth and controlled, avoiding any backward leaning. At the top of the movement, pause briefly before lowering the foot back to the ground with equal control. The lowering phase is just as important as the lifting phase because it trains the muscles responsible for controlled landing, which is critical for stability during walking. Each repetition reinforces the coordination between hip flexors and core muscles, improving the body's ability to lift the foot efficiently during movement. As control improves, the dependency on chair support decreases, allowing the body to maintain balance independently. Next comes directional control training, which introduces multi-directional stability challenges. In daily life, the body rarely moves in a single straight line. Instead, it reaches, twists, and shifts in multiple directions simultaneously. To prepare for this, a clock-based reach pattern is used. Standing near a stable support, imagine a clock face on the ground around you. Slowly extend one leg forward, then to the side, then slightly backward, tapping the floor lightly at each point before returning to center. Each movement requires the body to adjust its center of gravity while maintaining stability on the standing leg. This trains the smaller stabilizing muscles in the ankles and hips while also improving coordination between movement and balance control. As this exercise progresses, the standing leg becomes significantly stronger and more stable. This improvement directly translates into real-life situations, such as reaching for objects on shelves, stepping around furniture, or adjusting direction while walking. The final exercise in this sequence focuses on functional strength through controlled sitting and standing. This movement is one of the most fundamental daily actions, yet it is also one of the most common points of instability. To train this safely, begin by sitting on a sturdy chair with feet flat on the ground and arms crossed over the chest to prevent assistance from the hands. From this position, lean slightly forward and stand up using only the strength of the legs. Once fully upright, pause briefly before slowly lowering back down into the seated position with full control. The emphasis here is on smooth transitions rather than speed. Each repetition strengthens the quadriceps, glutes, and stabilizing muscles that support upright posture. What makes this exercise particularly valuable is its direct application to daily life. Every time a person stands from a chair, couch, or bed, they are performing a version of this movement. Improving control in this action significantly reduces the risk of imbalance during transitions between sitting and standing. At this stage, it is important to recognize that progress does not require perfection. Even small improvements in control, confidence, and stability represent meaningful changes in the nervous system. The body is highly adaptable, and with consistent practice, these movements gradually become more automatic and less effortful. As these foundational exercises become more familiar, they begin to integrate into everyday movement patterns. Standing feels more stable, walking feels more controlled. Reactions to small disturbances become faster and more efficient. These changes may feel subtle day by day, but over time, they compound into significant improvements in overall balance and fall prevention ability. At this stage, the focus shifts from learning individual movements to building a system that fits naturally into daily life. The most effective balance training is not defined by long workout sessions or intense effort, but by consistency, repetition, and integration into ordinary routines. The goal is to make stability training something that happens throughout the day without needing a separate, dedicated time block, so that the nervous system is repeatedly reminded how to respond to small shifts in balance. One of the most practical approaches to achieving this is to use short, frequent movement moments, rather than extended exercise sessions. The body responds very well to repeated exposure to controlled instability in small doses. This means that instead of performing all exercises at once, they can be distributed throughout the day in short intervals. For example, a few repetitions of forward balance shifting can be done while waiting for water to boil. Controlled weight shifts can be practiced while standing near a kitchen counter. Sit-to-stand movements can be performed before sitting down for meals or when getting up from a chair during normal daily activity. This approach allows training to blend into life rather than interrupt it. The reason this method is effective is because balance is not a separate physical skill that operates independently from daily movement. It is constantly active in everything a person does, from walking to turning to reaching. By embedding training into these natural moments, the nervous system receives repeated, real-world style input. This helps reinforce stability pathways in a way that feels relevant and practical, rather than artificial or forced. As these movements become more familiar, the body begins to show gradual but important changes. One of the first changes is improved confidence during movement. This does not happen because strength increases dramatically in a short period of time, but because the brain begins to trust the body's ability to recover from small disturbances. When confidence increases, hesitation decreases. When hesitation decreases, movement becomes smoother. This alone significantly reduces fall risk, because many falls are not caused solely by physical weakness, but by delayed reactions due to uncertainty. Another noticeable improvement is faster corrective response. When a person begins to lose balance slightly, the body starts to adjust more quickly without requiring conscious effort. This is the nervous system becoming more efficient at recognizing imbalance earlier in the movement cycle. Instead of reacting after instability has fully developed, the body begins correcting at the earliest stages of disruption. This difference is subtle, but extremely important in preventing falls during real-life situations. Over time, improvements also appear in walking stability. Everyday walking begins to feel more controlled, especially on uneven surfaces or when changing direction. The feet begin to respond more actively to the ground, and the ankles regain a sense of responsiveness that may have diminished over the years. This improvement is not about walking differently, but about walking with less effort and more automatic stability. It is also important to understand that progress is not linear. Some days may feel more stable than others. This is a normal part of how the nervous system adapts. Fatigue, attention, footwear, and environment all influence balance performance on any given day. Because of this, consistency is more important than intensity. Even small daily practice sessions are more effective than occasional long sessions followed by inactivity. A key principle in long-term balance improvement is the idea of maintenance through repetition. Once the basic exercises become easier, they should not be stopped completely. Instead, they transition from learning exercises into maintenance habits. Just a few repetitions per day are enough to maintain the neural pathways that support stability. The goal is not to continuously increase difficulty, but to keep the system active and responsive. Another important factor is environmental awareness. As balance improves, people often begin to move more freely, but it is still important to remain mindful of surroundings. Simple adjustments, such as keeping floors clear of obstacles, ensuring proper lighting, and using supportive footwear can significantly reduce unnecessary risk. These environmental supports work together with physical training to create a safer overall movement experience. It is also worth emphasizing that balance training is not limited to older adults who are already experiencing instability. In fact, early practice of these movements can help maintain coordination and reduce decline over time. The nervous system responds to use, and when it is regularly challenged in controlled ways, it retains its responsiveness more effectively. As the exercises continue over weeks and months, many people begin to notice a broader change beyond physical stability. There is often an increase in overall confidence during daily movement. Simple actions such as standing up, walking through a room, or stepping outside begin to feel more natural and less mentally demanding. This reduction in movement-related anxiety can have a significant impact on quality of life, as it encourages more activity and reduces avoidance behaviors. At a deeper level, what is being rebuilt through this process is trust between the brain and the body. When that connection is weak, movement feels uncertain. When that connection is strong, movement becomes automatic and reliable. The exercises in this program are designed specifically to restore that connection through repeated, controlled experiences of balance and recovery. It is important to remember that the purpose of this training is not to eliminate all risk, because no movement in life is completely risk-free. Instead, the purpose is to strengthen the body's ability to respond effectively when small disturbances occur. This ability is what separates a minor stumble from a serious fall. Improving this response system has a direct impact on independence, mobility, and long-term physical confidence. As this final stage comes together, the overall structure of the training becomes clear. It is built on 3 layers. The first layer is awareness, where the body begins to recognize how balance actually works. The second layer is activation, where specific exercises retrain the reflexes and muscles involved in stability. The third layer is integration, where these improvements are carried into daily life until they become automatic. Together, these layers create a complete system for improving balance in a realistic and sustainable way. The most important takeaway from this entire process is that balance is not fixed. It is not something that is simply lost with age and cannot be regained. It is a trainable ability that responds to consistent, targeted movement at any stage of life. Even small improvements can make a meaningful difference in safety and confidence. What matters most is not perfection in performing every exercise, but the willingness to stay consistent over time. Each repetition reinforces a protective system that works silently in the background of every step, every turn, and every moment of movement. When that system is strong, daily life becomes not only safer, but also more comfortable and more confident. Ultimately, the goal is simple: to move through life with greater stability, fewer limitations, and a stronger sense of control over one's own body. And with steady practice, that goal becomes entirely achievable.